Welcome to a special edition of Event Explorer, the podcast where we delve deep into the dynamic world of events and the vibrant people who make them happen. Today's episode is not just about an event, it's a comprehensive look at the industry itself. We're thrilled to have Laurie Kirby with us, a true pioneer in the festival scene, known for her remarkable ability to foster collaboration across the industry. Laurie is the founder of FestForums and has revolutionized how event professionals come together, enhancing community-wide benefits and pushing the boundaries of what festivals can achieve. In our conversation, we explore Laurie's storied history in the festival world, her insights on the future direction of the industry, and how she's crafted an event specifically tailored for event professionals that significantly contributes to the wider community. I hope you find this episode as enlightening and inspiring as I did. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast service. You can also follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn to stay updated on our latest episodes and behind-the-scenes content. Now let's explore FestForums in Santa Barbara, California in this conversation with Laurie Kirby. All right, today we are excited to have Laurie Kirby on our podcast. She is a visionary who's transitioned from a legal career to become a beacon in the festival industry. As president and owner of FestForums, Laurie has redefined collaboration among festival organizers from various domains: music, film, food, wine. She's a driving force for good in festival and events. So, Laurie, it's a pleasure to have you here. I think this is just a fantastic synergy kind of between our two missions, and I'm just so happy to hear your story and be able to recognize that there are great people behind the industry kind of moving it up and making it so much better as a whole. So thank you for being here.
Well, it's obviously my pleasure to be here and talk about what we do at FestForums as a way to bring festivals together and help improve the entire festival experience, which I think is at this time really important for a number of reasons.
More vital than ever. And I've created this as a way to tell the stories kind of behind the scenes. As I was researching and as I was getting further in my career and meeting people that were just joining the industry and they like it, maybe they got a taste of it through high school or college events, and they're interested in marketing, they're interested in events, they want to be a part of it, but the resources aren't that deep. And then now you're producing the festival and content and really providing a source for that, and I'm hoping this can be too. So I think there's a nice kismet here. Speaking of that, in high school and college students, it seems like your kind of interest in festivals and events stems from maybe an early age. Do you have any kind of early memories that got you interested in live events?
Funny you should ask. I'm here sitting in Newport, Rhode Island, where I lived for 25 years back visiting my children and grandchildren. And as it were, as a small child, my parents would bring my brother and I to festivals, including the Newport Folk Festival, which also, to bring it full circle, I'm meeting with the whole gang tomorrow because I have a big announcement to make with them.
Fabulous.
I was sort of transfixed with the entire experience of seeing artists that later became huge legends like Janis Joplin, and watching her perform and watching her shop, and also seeing Taj Mahal and Pete Seeger and all these people who are icons in the industry who at the time in the 60s, because I am that old, were just, playing at folk festivals. Newport wasn't really on the map as anything that particularly extraordinary, which of course it since has gone on to become. And I later became very good friends with the founder, George Wein, who I honored at FestForums. And actually, our history was intertwined through what later became my career in the festival industry. So, yeah, and then also through grade school and high school, I was always the kid putting on my own plays, which, makes it easier for you to star in them. And then also, starring in high school plays and doing theater and all of that sort of thing. So I always loved the arts, and I loved film, and I always loved music. My father and I played guitar. So the arts were a big part of my childhood and upbringing.
And that had to be I love the idea of that being a significant event. You might have heard someone on a record and then you go to Newport and see them, and it just makes it all the more tangible and real, and brings the value of live experience. Even a kid can understand that, um, you know, from going through that experience. But you didn't start your career. I just want to get a little bit of background. You didn't start your career in festivals. You moved into the legal realm. How did you kind of wind your way back to this passion through that work?
Well, I was really always interested in the arts.
Mm.
And, in those days, in the 70s and 80s, I had started to follow a career in acting. And my parents were both doctors, pretty much told me, put the kibosh on that and said, you're going to law school. You don't do that. So I went to college and followed a pretty traditional um, path. I was a history major. And then I was like, well, what are you going to do with a history degree? So I went on to law school. And then when I left law school, I went up in Newport, Rhode Island. And really the only area of law that made sense was in real estate. And so I spent a lot of my career as a real estate attorney, but also general counsel to the Audubon Society, always with a love for the arts and entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and actually was general counsel to the senior LPGA, which I really loved, and has a lot of crossover, in fact, with the entertainment business for the types of issues that we had. And then ultimately, when the Newport International Film Festival was being formed, based off of the popularity of the folk festival and the jazz festival, I was asked to be on the board.
It's fun to think about the idea of this as an outlet for creativity, of in supporting others as an outlet for creativity. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of a managerial or a process-oriented mind that goes into the legal profession. You need to think through every step, and I'm sure that helps the people you collaborated with. I know the LPGA, you worked with them to start some events. How was that? How is that different than a wine event or something like that? How does that differ for you?
The content itself may be different, but the
Mm.
senior LPGA had just started up at that point. And so
Hmm.
it was really a licensing deal that I created with Ty Vota, who was the commissioner of the LPGA at the time. And then we set out to create the rules and the sponsorship agreements, as well as tournament agreements. And so these are all,
Sure.
ops and organizational, licensing, permitting, sponsorship. So, in law, there's just subject matter, and then the content itself is really almost fungible to some extent.
Hmm.
And so it really did help me later on in my career when I shifted over to working in music and film and some of the other verticals that I otherwise got involved with.
That's a great point to kind of look at FestForums too, right? That it is finding that connective tissue behind the scenes of events and finding best processes, practices, vendors. Is that an influence on why you thought that FestForums was needed and the area where you thought it would be successful?
Right. When I was running the Newport International Film Festival, I felt it was really important to collaborate with other festivals.
Hmm.
And I really tried hard to bring in other festivals because I felt, it's like a labor union. It's like anything else. But by creating a mini monopoly,
Hmm.
we would have greater strength with our filmmakers, with the distributors, with our fans, with our sponsors. I had a hard time making that argument to other festivals as they became more and more enmeshed in the idea of becoming fiefdoms. And that really bothered me because I felt it did a disservice, particularly to the filmmakers who want to show their films in as many places as possible.
Hmm.
And so the collaboration idea was really critical to my thinking about what FestForums was going to be. And also another company that I worked for prior to them that also was an educational conference.
I see. So yeah, it seems almost antithetical, the idea of a festival and being kind of an open gathering place. And then, I mean, a business is business and there's competition between them, but your festival might run 2 weeks. Well, there's 50 other weeks of the year where films can be screened or film fans can attend other festivals, and each one's unique. I would imagine a festival in Newport has a little bit of the flavor of the city or of the people of Newport behind it as well. Was that organic kind of through there, and how did that get how did that get started? I know you were kind of involved in the early days of.
I threw my hat in the ring because I was really bored at that point. I had been a lawyer for
Sure.
20 years. My children were grown, and I wanted to try something a little more creative. And I felt bringing my love of the arts together with my legal skills, also being local to Newport for all of these years, and seeing Newport as this incredible, for lack of a better word, brand with all of the unique attributes that it had, that we could create something unique and special for the community, but also that could put us on the map. But really trying to make us a special, unique festival, which
Shared
showcases.
infrastructure there too, with the rest of the Newport festivals.
There was not.
Okay.
We were on our own, but there was not another film festival at the time. But we did have some theaters. We worked with the library. Community members were really excited about it. We got media instantaneously. We got some great sponsors. The Tiffany style sponsor. We had Vanity Fair get involved early on, and we really built a great brand in Newport. And then also tapping into the local community and all of those that had, a creative spirit that were interested in being part of this film experiment. We brought in high school students who've since gone on to establish careers in the film industry. So all of those goals, all of that vision was something that I felt was really integral to creating what could be a very successful event.
Obviously, this inspiration then became the motivation for creating FestForums. What were those first years of FestForums like? This was 2015 where you kicked this off?
Yeah. I mean, I had run, after Newport, I had run probably 6, 7, 8 other film festivals. It is a little bit of an itinerant trade, although I was an executive director, so I basically stayed at the festival. But once it was over, I could go and produce other festivals for other cities. So it took me to Ojai and Barbados and Philadelphia and U.S. Sports Film Festival, which took me to New York. But essentially, I became more interested in the collaborations that could be created between not just film festivals, but music festivals and food and wine festivals. And I was actually hired by another company to create that. And it really took someone who could do that full time. And so while there, I began to think about what it would look like if I created my own conference and focused on those things that I felt were really important. Now, each of those industries are very different. The film industry is different from the music industry, which is different from the food and wine industry. But they all had some commonalities, and that was pain points. And those are some of the things that we've already discussed. And it's sponsorship, money, ticketing, obviously safety being number one, sustainability, creativity, talent buying. All of those things are really important. And then with technology, understanding the technology, how to use the technology, how to market one's festival through technology. And so it was becoming more complicated to be a festival director. So I thought, what if all of them came together and we developed a way for them to share their best practices? And that was really the the genesis of FestForums.
The content was born organically out of the need that you experienced, personally. Were there kind of pivotal figures that were involved in that you collaborated with early on for FestForums?
Well, I went to Kevin Lyman, who's one of the biggest names in the music business, and said, "What do you think if I do this?" And he said, "Great idea." And then I went to Lisa Euchman, who was the biggest name in the sponsorship business at the time. And she said, "Great idea." So they both early on came on the advisory board and really helped me shape what this could look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were a lot of other people in the music business, particularly since I did not come from there, that were extremely helpful in identifying for me what the pain points were, who I should go to. And the music business just threw open its arms to me to help me create something that would be of value. Because as many people who work in the music industry, live music industry, know, Live Nation and AEG, particularly now, have rolled up a lot of these festivals. At the time, it wasn't quite as, for lack of a better word, monopolistic.
Sure.
But nonetheless, all of these people who had worked together had never really had the opportunity in their downtime to hang out. And through that, by my looking at them from the 100-foot view, I could see trends and things that were developing. And by talking to each one, understanding what it was that they might want to learn from some of their folks, just creating a place where they could talk to each other that wasn't during a festival when everyone's in crisis mode and running around like a chicken with their head chopped off and putting out fires. What if they had a calm place where they could discuss best practices? What if we brought in the vendors to them rather than the vendors having to try to, and I hate to use the word vendors, but partners,
Sure.
folks who supplied the services and technology and products that were needed, but could do so in a very relaxed environment. And so it's a business model that really works, because if you are, for lack of a better example, selling porta potties, or
What better
ticketing.
place? What better place?
What
Where are you
better
going to find
place? I've
this
aggregated.
confluence? Yeah.
It's
Have you?
basically an aggregation.
So I imagine you found sponsors to be receptive too. What kind of sponsors are you seeing? And I imagine people are kind of inbound to you, that they're just saying, "There's
It is.
how can I get time with these people?" Does that make its way also into the content of the festival itself through speeches and talks, so people are understanding kind of trends and technologies?
Absolutely. I mean, I try to do it in an organic way. It's not sales pitches, but
Sure.
yeah, it is now an inbound process, which has made it much easier for me and my team to manage, and also with speakers, although I do a lot of the curation there. But think about it. If you have a service or a product that you want to get in front of festivals, what better way to do it? And also, we have a very robust mailing list. So, I've spent 10 years and another 10 in the business, 10 years, so 20 years in this industry, building up a catalog of people who know who and trust what I am and what I do, who I am and what I do, so that they know that if they come, they're in a safe space, and that I will provide a great audience for them that they can then interact with and have those organic conversations with about what they do. And then, yes, the content is also built around that. But in the content, it's really about providing value, so that you're not there selling what you do, but you're teaching what you know. And that's a really critical piece of what FestForums is about.
Being able to pass down information that kind of either stays siloed in its own event, or just isn't taught in necessarily a formal way. So I love that about the festival and the content. Has the breadth of what you cover expanded over the years? How has that impacted kind of audience draws and attention?
Well, luckily, I like to read a lot. So I am always looking for new ideas about what's happening in the industry. And so I talk to a lot of industry leaders. I read a lot. I research a lot and look at where I see trends are. I also speak on various panels throughout the country when I'm not producing the conference. And so I'm able to learn from these folks what is really most important to them. And that content, shapes what FestForums is and changes very rapidly on a dime. I mean, we're seeing obviously more issues with weather, right, than we've ever seen before. In the US, we're seeing more issues around guns and those kinds
Safety,
of issues that are problematic in mass gatherings. We also are managing things around sustainability. Diversity has found its way into the conversation, as we've noticed. Well, we've always noticed, but
Sure.
the mainstream is noticing that there aren't enough women that are headlining on the stages, and there aren't enough minorities and people of color. And so all of these things are the things that make up the bulk of what we do. And yes, there are topics that always remain on the agenda because they're top of mind. But roundtables and other forms of conversation also are extremely important, as well as keynotes that I would liken to, say, TED Talks. So we did, Jamie Raskin spoke last year about mental health issues. And we've had all kinds of speakers each year talk about issues that are topical. And I want to get people thinking about what's interesting. How can they make their festivals more interesting, diverse, safer, profitable?
Sure, profitable, and sharing those resources helps. Obviously, it's you're not starting from ground zero. You can kind of create this confluence or this union that you were talking about that helps promote kind of better practices in the festival industry, and helps vendors. The more business a vendor's doing, probably the economies of scale improve, and all of a sudden prices improve and offerings improve to festival goers. There's another kind of set of guests or just something that's really sparkling is that people established participants in the film industry. You've had the Coen brothers, you've had Alicia Silverstone, Quentin Tarantino, they've come. And these are, for a business conference, there's some very established players coming in. Do you see them as seeing a benefit of speaking to this audience, to the festival industry?
Well, at the heart of a music festival are the musicians. At the heart of a film festival are the filmmakers. The heart of a food and wine festival are the chefs and the winemakers themselves. And so I think it's really important to shine a light on them. And they are heroes to all of us. And so I've been lucky to identify those folks who almost are behind the scenes. You get Alice Cooper because I honored Shep Gordon. Well, the man on the street may not know who Shep Gordon is, but the man or woman on the street does know all of the stars that he helped promote. From Jimi Hendrix to Alice Cooper to he created the celebrity chef. T-Bone Burnett may not be a household name, but the Coen brothers and Jeff Bridges are. And so they've all worked with T-Bone and they know he's a genius. And so it's really kind of fun to shine a light on the person who isn't necessarily the household name, who is the musician's musician, or the manager's manager, or the filmmaker's filmmaker. Bruce Dern's favorite director and Quentin Tarantino's favorite actor is Bruce Dern. They love each other and they work together. So it was very easy when Bruce Dern accepted the Living Legend Award to get Quentin Tarantino to say, absolutely, he's my favorite actor. And these people are brilliant. I mean, they come and they're so interesting and fascinating, and the stories they tell, and they like to be together and they like to be in Santa Barbara. And Jack Johnson, sustainability is his passion. So for him to come and talk about sustainability to an audience of festivals,
True
8
impact.
years ago, when that wasn't top of mind with most festival producers, is an easy ask. So these are all ways that I look at when I'm curating this to make what then becomes a very interesting guest. In the same way we had Jerry Cope is a friend of mine, and he kept saying Chuck Leavell, the Rolling Stones, would be a great guest. Chuck Leavell has played with the Rolling Stones. He literally tours with them and the Allman Brothers, but he's also a great environmentalist. And so we bring these people in to give keynote addresses, and they're really interesting, fascinating individuals, but they're not, again, top of mind.
Yeah.
So for me, they are. And then it creates, I think, very interesting content for the audiences that are there for our festivals.
Sure, sure. And yeah, obviously the passion is broad audiences of hundreds of thousands or millions over the years, but you don't get to see these driving forces behind it. And I also love the idea of the artists being such an important we think of kind of, I think, festival makers and event producers as creating the stage and then they come and do their thing. But that kind of back and forth that you're describing between the artist and the manager and the producer is such an important part that probably is unspoken. So I think that's a great role that your event is helping to promote as you begin to expand or continue to expand. I know you're doing events in LA, New York, and then the big event in Santa Barbara. Do you see that continuing? Do you see kind of the need for additional events beyond the main FestForums in Santa Barbara? And what type of programming are you hoping to produce over the next couple of years?
Well, I'm going to put it out there. Anybody who wants to franchise and take it to another city, by all means, contact me. I have, yes, done it in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it in New York, in San Francisco, and I host events at other things. I'll be speaking at NEVA coming up in June. And I typically, like I said, go to other conferences and festivals and do speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I will host events. Women in Music, I've always helped host an event there because I really believe in supporting women, minorities, and that's a big focal point of what I do. It's a very diverse conference, and I think it's really important to maintain that diversity. In terms of expansion, I really like the intimacy of Santa Barbara. Some people find it schleppy, but once they get there, they are just over the moon that they've come. It's called the American Riviera for a reason. So there could be an expansion at this moment. I don't have plans for it, but that doesn't mean I couldn't. But I really love the idea of hosting this once a year. And I put out content all year round. The newsletter goes out depending on what time of year, once a week, where I aggregate, I think, what is the most interesting information that you might not read necessarily in the trades, but is more of an educational value and is thought-provoking and hopefully helpful, as well as promoting our own content, because we are creating content as well all the time. And so as I look at 2015, really what I'm trying to do is see where the industry is headed and take that into consideration as I form the content. And not to just mention the artists that we honor, we also honor festivals every year as well. So, it's been all over the map with some of the festivals that we've honored for their work, particularly those that are doing work in social justice, because that's really important to
shining a light.
The mission. Absolutely. So, the content's coming together as we speak.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of that, and just to wrap here, because I think some of the audience are going to be really interested in A, attending, and B, possibly contributing to the festival, if they want to tell their story or be part of these panels. So how are contributors and participants, do they just reach out kind of through the website and start the conversation, or are there good ways to get involved that you would like to have people contact you?
Well, the website is festforums.com. It's one word, FestForums.com. I'm Laurie Kirby, so you can just,
Find
Google
you.
my name and it pops up with all those unfortunate photos from the past. But the best way is probably just to go to hello@festforums.com. Go to the site, check out the site. You'll really learn a lot about our history and who has come, what we're about, the festivals that have been there, and how to get in touch with us. If we're always open to new suggestions. I just like to survey. I like to talk to people about what interests them, what they want to hear. I'm always open to suggestions about ideas to make
Sure.
it better. I mean, that's the point of what I do. And I have a great team that helps build this with me. I have an amazing team around me of really smart women who have helped me in the past few years since COVID rebuild it, because during COVID the conference was shut down.
Mm.
So this will be our third year coming up post COVID. And I just keep reshaping it each year to keep it interesting for me and for the audience. And I really want to create an environment for them that is something that I would want to step into. And so all of the elements are through the eyes of the attendees and what will rock their world when they come to Santa Barbara, because it's a very special, unique place. And I want to make sure that everyone there has a great time.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's a fantastic city, and the festival sounds like you bring so much to the city too. So you're going to get kind of the best of everything when you attend FestForums. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I know the audience will find this kind of invaluable, and the idea of, I hope it sparks the idea of coming out and visiting the festival. This is an education that you can't get anywhere else. I really feel like in the country, especially so focused and with so much heart and soul to it as well. So appreciate what you're doing. I think this will be a really special listen for a lot of people. So thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. It was my honor. And thank you for all of the kind words. It really is a unique and special event. So thank you. And I hope you'll be joining as well.
I want to. I'd love to be a part of it in the future. All right, take care.
Thank you.
That was a great conversation with Laurie Kirby. I want to thank her again for being a guest. I feel like today we've just scratched the surface of her contributions and knowledge in the industry. She's a magnetic and vibrant voice, a true expert in making a successful festival and designing experiences for a variety of audiences. Be sure to check out FestForums. You can learn more about their impactful events and initiatives by visiting their website or searching for them on social. And why not make plans to visit Santa Barbara next winter to experience FestForums in person? It will definitely be an enriching experience for anyone in the event industry. If you enjoyed our deep dive today, don't forget to like and subscribe to Event Explorer. We're always exploring new facets of the event world, bringing insights and stories that inspire and inform. Happy exploring!